Okay, we're going to solve linear systems by substitution today. A lot of you are gone, or I just want to make sure that we have access to a video where we can see this direct instruction. Please make sure you use the ability to rewind or pause. Always ask questions if you have any questions about the video. I'll do my very best to explain all the steps along the way. So again, this is just another way we can solve a linear system. Just a reminder, a linear system is where two lines cross, so our answers today will still be coordinate point answers. So in example 1 here, they want us to, pardon me, solve the system by substitution. Now, as you can see, the top one is already in slope-intercept form, but we're not going to graph, we're going to substitute. The main reason this becomes more handy is because we start getting fractions or decimal answers for our intercepts that we really don't want. So what we can do is we can use substitution. Essentially what you do when you substitute is you isolate a variable. Okay, so step 1 is to isolate a variable. Notice that I didn't say y. You don't have to isolate y. You can do x or y. Okay, the next step will be to plug in value, and it will be an equation for the variable. Okay, and then last, we're going to solve. So step 3, we're going to solve for one variable. Okay, and once we solve for one, we will plug in and solve for the other. But that should be pretty self-explanatory once we get there. Okay, so again, if you need to pause and write all those steps down, go for it. But essentially what we do is we, isolate a variable. So in this equation, you can already see we have the y isolated. So we've already got step 1 done. What we're going to do next is we're going to take this stuff that y is equal to, and instead of writing y in our second equation, we're going to write that stuff. So we're going to copy down exactly what that equation says, 6x minus 5. And instead of writing the y, I'm going to write negative 2x minus 9. And then I'm going to finish my equation, equals negative 19. Once I have that, now I have one variable to solve for, so I can distribute. I get 6x plus 10x plus 45 equals negative 19. We combine like terms. We have 16x plus 45 equals negative 19. We get 6x after we subtract this 45 over. Let's see, those are the same sign. So we get 16x equals, let me add this up real quick. It's early in the morning. My head is not ready for it yet. 19 plus 45. We get 64 and it's negative. And then we just divide 64 by 16. We watch our signs. X equals negative 4. Now, that seems like a lot of work, but again, if our intercept is a decimal or a fraction and we can't be exact, this gives us our exact answer. Now, once we know one of the values, we can simply take this in and go plug it in to our equation that already had the other one isolated to solve for y. So we can say y equals negative 2 times negative 4 minus 9. We get y equals 8 minus 9. And we be sure we write our answer as a coordinate point, -4, -1. As always, we can always plug in and check our answer. For the sake of time in the video, I'm not going to do that this time. But if you plug in these values, you should get true statements both times. If you don't, we did something wrong here. So take this opportunity to pause and try these. Again, I know you see fractions. It's not that bad. I at least want you to get an attempt on your paper before you just copy down what I write. There are not very many practice opportunities before you get to your practice set in this monitoring progress. Okay, so the first one is probably the trickiest. So if you need a second or a hint, what we're going to do, and this is kind of confusing, what we're going to do essentially is we're going to take this stuff and we're going to plug it in. So I'm going to take this 3x plus 14 and I'm going to plug it in for y right here. So that makes it look kind of weird in terms of plugging in. But essentially we write 3x plus 14, and then we write what it's equal to equals negative 4x. And then we can solve for our variable. So if you needed that step, go ahead and pause and try. I'm going to continue on here. So negative 3x, we get 14 equals negative 7x. We divide by negative 7. And we get negative 2 equals x. Again, it doesn't really matter where we plug it in. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in here. So y is equal to negative 4 times negative 2. I'm going to move this over actually so I don't invade the space of the next problem. And I get y is equal to 8. So my coordinate point answer is negative 2, 8. This one, again, if it helps, you guys can circle it or put it in parentheses, underline it, I don't know. But we're isolating the y, so I'm going to plug that stuff in for the y value. So we have 3x plus 2. I'm going to plug that stuff in for y, 1/2 x minus 1. And I'm going to continue writing my equation equals 0. So 3x, if I distribute that 2, 1/2 times 2 is just 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And then I get 4x minus 2 equals 0. We're going to add the 2 to the other side. We're going to divide by 4. And we get x equals 1/2. Now, when we do this, sometimes fractions intimidate us a little bit, but I'm going to plug that 1/2 in. When I do that, 1/2 times 1/2, if we will remember, is 1/4 minus 1. So it's negative 3/4. So my coordinate point answer, and this will probably be the toughest one we do all day because it was fractions, but it should be 1/2 comma negative 3/4. Or if you put 0.5, negative 0.75, that's fine. Notice on this last one, it looks a little different. We have x isolated for us. So we're going to plug in for x this time instead of y. Essentially, the work is the same though. We plug in for x. We distribute. Once we distribute, we combine like terms. We add our 28 over. We divide by 25. We get y equals 1. Again, we can just plug that right in. And there you have it. Pardon me. All right, so there's your answers for those. Now, the next one. When we go to do it, if we don't already have a variable isolated, here's what I suggest. We look at our coefficients. Okay, you want to find a coefficient that is either positive 1 or negative 1. Okay, if your coefficient isn't positive 1 or negative 1, you really don't want to isolate that variable. So the only one that I would say is really kind of out the window is to isolate that term right there. Everything else is fair game, so it doesn't matter. Your answer will be correct as long as you do your math correct. Just for the sake of simplicity, I think I'm going to isolate this y right there. So in order to isolate the y in equation 1, what I'm going to have to do, I'll copy it down here. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to add this x to the other side. Now, my new equation 1 is y equals x plus 3. Now I have a variable isolated. Again, I didn't have to isolate the y. I just did it because I thought it would be easier. So now I'm going to take that and I'm going to plug it into equation 2. So when I go to do this one, I'm going to write 3x plus, instead of writing y, I'm going to write my x plus 3. And then I'm going to finish my equation equals negative 1. We're going to combine like terms. We're going to subtract our 3 over. And I get x equals negative 1. Now again, I can just take that and plug it in right there. So y equals negative 1 plus 3. Y equals 2. So we get our same process. We just have to isolate a variable first. So again, pause, rewind. If you need to hear or see something again, go ahead and do it. But I want you guys to take the time to pause and try these. After this, we'll just talk about a story problem, and that will be it for the lesson. Okay, so I'm going to be moving things around here so that I can show the work and not leave stuff out. You might have to pause and go back or rewatch some of this. Again, take the time to make sure you understand it. For the sake of doing something a little different, on number 4, I'm going to isolate this y. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that equation, and I'm going to write y equals negative x minus 2. Now once I've isolated that y, I'm going to take this stuff right here, and I'm going to plug it in for this y right here. So underneath of this, I have negative 3x minus x minus 2 equals 6. Combine our like terms, it's negative 4x minus 2 equals 6. We're going to add the 2 to the other side. Negative 4x equals 8. We're going to divide by negative 4. And I get x equals negative 2. I can go ahead and plug that in. Watch your double negatives here. So I have y equals negative. I plug in negative 2 minus 2. That's a lot of negatives. That becomes positive 2 though. So I get 2 minus 2 and I get y equals 0. So for number 4, I get negative 2, comma 0. I'm going to go ahead and write that right there so you can see that that's what you should get for your answer. But so that I have some room, I'm going to shrink this down and put it away in the corner for just a moment. Again, if you need to rewind and rewatch, by all means do so. Number 5 is already right here, so I am just going to manipulate this formula. I'm for sure going to move this x this time because it's negative, so it would be easier for us to just add it to the other side. When I add it to the other side, I get x minus 4. I'm going to take x minus 4, and I'm going to plug it in for y. Now, the reason I put parentheses around it is because there's a negative sign in front of it instead of a positive. When I have a negative sign in front of it, that's going to do a little bit something different. I have to distribute the negative to both terms, so it's going to be negative x plus 4 when I go to combine terms here. The reason for that is because there's a negative 1 there that changes everything. So now I get 3x plus 4 equals 10, 3x equals 6, and I get x equals 2. Once I get x equals 2, again, I can just plug it in right here. Y equals 2 minus 4. Y equals negative 2. So I get 2, comma, negative 2. Okay, so we'll write that answer right there. Let's shrink this down first. Oops. Well, maybe I'll shrink it down first. Let's just start with this, shrink. There we go. And we'll just erase this for now. So it was 2 comma negative 2. Okay, our next one. Both of our y's have a negative value in front of them, so I'm going to just isolate this one right here. I'm going to subtract that 3x over to the other side. Now I have negative y equals negative 3x plus 1. I'm going to divide everything by negative 1. Y equals 3x minus 1. So now I'm going to take this stuff and I'm going to plug it in for that y. Again, watch your negative sign. So we are going to put everything in parentheses. We're going to distribute the negative. We're going to combine like terms. We get x equals negative 4. We're going to plug that negative 4 in. So we get negative 4, comma negative 13. Again, pause, rewatch if you need to. For the sake of space and time, I'm going to go ahead and erase this. I'm going to go ahead and isolate this x. So x equals 2y plus 7. I'm going to plug this in right here. 3 parentheses 2y plus 7. Oops, not equals yet. Minus 2y equals 3. So I get 6y plus 21 minus 2y equals 3. We combine like terms. We get 4y plus 21 equals 3. We subtract the 21 over. We get 4y equals negative. Uh-oh, did I make a mistake somewhere? Let's double check. I don't know if I'm supposed to get fractions here. If I add that over, it's 2y plus 7. Plugged it in there, minus 2y. Maybe we get a fraction. Negative 18 divide by 4. So y is equal to, let's reduce that as much as we can. We'll divide by 2. Negative 9 over 2. It's not pretty, but that's okay. We'll take that and plug it in. So we plug it in for x. 2 times 9 over 2. That's not so bad. That goes away. Plus 7. The 2's go away, so 9 plus 7, we get 16. So that's a good example of when we really don't want a graph to solve there, because that would be tough to find that intersection at, negative 9 over 2 and 16. So there's your answers. Again, notice I put the y here and the x here. Make sure you do that. Okay, so last little bit here. Again, just understand if you're solving a real life problem, I'll help you out and set it up. But they'll probably throw one of these at you. Sometimes they even give you the formula, guys. So make sure if they give you the formula, this is even easier. So now to substitute, I can literally just take this 2y and plug it in for x here and solve. Okay, so again, for the sake of my voice giving out a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and finish the video. Make sure you go back, pause, rewatch anything you need to. Make sure you're working them out on paper or on a marker board. Be working these problems out. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.